Hey test friends, today we are going to see three games. The first game is between Arthur Bisger and Anatoly Karpov from 1972. Let's start the game. The game started. Really? No. D4. Really? No. Bisger was a C4 player. He tended to play the English and ready type. C5, knight C3, G6, knight F3, bishop D7, E3, knight F6, D4. This is the E3 D4 system. Short castle, bishop E2, ED4, CD4, D5. This is the main theory here. Now short castle, and now in C6. If CD5, then I play knight D5, and you have isolated pawn. And you are just going to end with an isolated pawn now or then, because I'll just play DC4 and you are just behind. You just have an isolated pawn. And in this game we saw Karpov delivering the complete masterclass how to outclass the isolated pawn. Now H3, bishop F5. Now it is often said that the side who has the isolated pawn should attack, but a problem was that Karpov attacked and hold the game, so Bisger could not attack in the game. So now bishop E3, D into C4, bishop into C4, rook to C8. Now A3 is one move here, unarguably, but in the game he chose a much safer approach, bishop to E2. And now knight D5, queen B3. Queen B3 was played in two of the games, but in the game knight D5 was chosen. But I don't especially like this move, because you allow the queen to be developed on the center of the board. That's not what somebody like me wants, but still it's not that bad of a move. So knight into D5, queen into D5, and now it's officially an isolated. Is from here. From this position we will see how Karpov outclassed his opponent step by step. Firstly he brings his piece. He brings his pieces, and now he trades pieces. Why? See, there are some rules when you play against isolated pawn. First rule is you should trade pieces. The isolated pawns are weak in endgames. I'll not use isolated pawn again and again. So I'll just say IQP, isolated queen's pawn. Okay. So the IQP are weak in endgames. So you need to exchange all the pieces, and the endgame they are just a pure threat. And for the side having the IQP, it's very important to not trade pieces. Only when it is favorable to them, and start an attack. And also this D5 break, like D5 is coming now, it's very important to stop D5. That's why knight D5. And for the side against the isolated pawn, it's very important to control the square above the IQP, like D4. In all cases, almost all, D5 is the thing you need to control, and if you are black, then D4. If you are white, then you need to control d4, and if you are black, then you need to control d5. Remember, I am saying control, not push. That's very important. We'll see. Now knight d5, knight into d. So here, that's another move. But Karpov in the game chose a whole lot of a strategy. He played bishop e6. Very interesting move. Bishop e6. He's planning. He is not allowing the d5 break to be accomplished, and now he is controlling the d5. Later he can bring his forces and attack the d4 pawn. Another thing, the advantage of being against the IQB is that if you develop all your forces quickly and then aim all of them against the d4 or d5 pawn, the IQB, then opponent's pieces will fall into passive positions and your pieces into active ones, and then many times you can win the pawn, and then because of the central pawn you can win the game. So after bishop e6, queen d2 was played, queen a5, developing the queen, bishop h6. Exchanging these bishops, it might seem your king might seem a little bit weak, but it's none of a problem, and we are over top happy about that, because exchanging pieces is part of our plan. Rook f d8, bishop into g7, king into g7, and now rook f d1. White protects the pawn. And now what will you play? Most players here say moves like knight b4, knight d5, or knight d5. Yeah. Now comes the very important part. This is a misconception. Like in chess players, when they read books about isolated pawn structures, they tend to assume it like this. When there is an isolated pawn, the square below that, like in this case the d5 square, should be blocked, but it's not true. It should not be blocked. It just should be controlled. Controlling is important, not blocking. So knight b4, knight d5, knight d5, all these plans are not so good. What you need to do is control the square in top of the pawn and then continue your attack on the d4 pawn. So here Karpov played very good move, rook to d6. This deserves an exclamation mark, because most people would think about knight b4, and that also isn't that bad, but rook d6 is just good. Yeah, after knight b4, knight b d5 is the plan here. See, knight b d5, and after rook d6, there's a dangerous plan of rook c d8. But the thing is that you don't need to control you don't need to block the square, you just need to control it. That's very good conceptual understanding by Karpov. That's what he peaks in. He has such an amazing understanding of chess. Like, wow. He really has outstanding chess understanding. Chess understanding means positional understanding. Understanding of the things, the positional concepts like prophylaxis, then their pawn structure, things like this, positional sacrifices, activity. He has very deep understanding about these concepts. That's what makes him one of the toughest world champions. Like, This guy will just choke you like a snake. Yeah, I mean really. He has too good endgame, too good positional understanding, too good endgame understanding, and he's also he's not that bad at attacking chess, but still you would not want to face this person in a positional combat. Okay, so after a3 let's see how he grinds it. Yeah, we see the grind at the end of the game. Now bishop b3, like this, it deserves also a good move. Now most people would think about doubling pressure, but our thing is not to attack the opponents, to get the pressure. Now if we slow the number of attackers, then it will also slow the number, then it will increase the pressure, because the less defenders, the less pressure on the pawn. That's why bishop b3 important move. Stopping the you will say it's just attacking the rook, no big deal, man. But after rook d2, it's doing a very important job of stopping the rook from getting to d1. Now other rook can't join, and it's just almost paralyzed for white. It's just very hard to move your pieces without any loss. Almost lose one. And now the thing which adds fuel in the fire is rook to e6. Nice move. Now queen f4. Now after rook e6, things are even more unsettled for white. Indian is showing a clear advantage. And after queen d3, there's knight b4. And then sadly you have to play queen b5, queen into b5, bishop into b5, and then knight to d5. And now you have to trade into an endgame against Karpov with an isolated pawn. Just horrible. So after rook e6, king queen to f4, and now it's just loss. There's just no way now. Now knight d5, knight into d5, rook into d5. Now why rook into d5, why not bishop into d5? This sounds like a but the thing is with this blockade that you block the d8 rook, and now it's not that active. After rook into d5, you keep the activity flowing, and also there are some peaky threats of rook f5, and then you and for the not alerted, this is a question: what is black's threat now? Sounds kinda elementary, like just increasing the pressure. But what if I tell you there's just a way to just win this game super quick? Imagine white played something like king h1. Okay, now I play rook f5, and now if you go away with your queen, did you see the shot? I hope so. Rook into f3. Now bishop into f3, comes queen into d2. And now I'm just a piece up, there's no d5, and it's just game over. Like if you play d5 with hope of bishop into d5, rook d1, then you have no hope, you are just hopeless. Rook e1 check, and then I win. So that's why that is the threat of black. And here he played g4, ugly move, but still have to make, because you need to protect rook f5. There's no other way of protecting. It's just so beautiful. There's no other way of defending against rook d5. Bishop d3 is just met by rook f6, and then and then I take your rook, and if and it might seem g into f3, but knight into d4. This is just crushing compensation. Nah, it's just game over. Crushing compensation. Like if you play king h1, rook f5, you can't even play queen e3 so that you are exchange up. So bad. It's so bad. So after g4, what will you play? Pause the video and think. g5, nice move. Karpov is perfectly balancing attack and defense at both at the same time. He is just crushing his opponent along with preventing all counterplay. Just amazing. We queen g3, rook f6 threatening rook into f3, and now bishop to d1 asking for an kind exchange so that things could go a little easy on him. But he is Karpov. Bishop c4, an exceptional move. Normally the strategy is to trade the bishop which is at the opposite color of the isolated pawn, so that there could be not active bishop. But here Karpov is declining it. Why? This is concrete, because now it's just concrete. Now you go bishop a6, this is just monster bishop destroying everything, and I can't see a way to parry rook into f3 now. Just the rook can't move anywhere. Rook c2 is... what is rook c2 meant by? Rook c2 just bishop a6 or something. Yeah, bishop d3. You can't do just anything, you are just losing a pawn, a piece, so on and so forth. And now after b3, bishop a6, and here comes the final technique of Karpov. After b4, he plays queen to d8. What precision! After knight into b4, that's just a free pawn, but he didn't want the bishop to be on b3 and then his rook would have to go to b5. He didn't want to give the opponent any counterplay. He just played a safe and solid queen d8, and now he has a crushing... wait, what? Now he has a crushing threat. Knight into d4. Kudos if you know this. Knight into d4 is his threat, and why? Because it's just a free pawn. Bishop b3, and now what will you play? Knight into d4. Here comes the boy. A tactical shot zooms in and just destroys everything in its path. What a picture. Knight into d4, just game over, man. Nothing remaining now. It's just game over. Why? Because if bishop into d5, queen into f3, knight into f3 check, bishop into f3, queen into d2, and now it's just game over. So that's why knight into d4, rook into d4, knight into g5, last desperate try to create anything, but nah, Karpov is not going to allow that. Queen h4, just h6, solidifying, knight into f7, queen d4, there's nothing here. Everything is defended by the rook on f6. Rook e1 trying rook into e7. But the final picture shot of the game, rook into h3. What an amazing move. Queen into h3 went by queen into f2. King h1 went by queen into e1. King h2 went by rook f2, and just game over. So that was the amazing game. Oof, kinda good. Brilliant. So first let's put in the amazing result, As we can guess, it's 0-1 and over. Now let's zoom to the takeaways to this game. We learned some rules about playing with the isolated pawn and against the isolated pawn. When you play with the isolated pawn, you should try to keep pieces in the attack and exchange only when it's favorable to yours. Try to keep pieces and exchange only when it's favorable to yours, and then try to create some attack. And when you are and try to organize a d5 brick. And when you are playing against the isolated pawn, you should try to control the square, the d5 square in this case. And when you are black d5 and you are white d4. And very important, it's not about blocking, it's about controlling. Very common misconception. It's about controlling the square. If you control it, then it's fine. You don't need to block it like such. And then we learned that we should trade pieces as many as possible, so that we reach an endgame. And in the endgame, the isolated pawn is a weakness, because obviously it's a weak pawn, and then we can exploit it to our full potential. Then we learned that we should try and activate all of our pieces in attacking the pawn, so that opponent's pieces become passive, and we slowly and steadily improvise and then win the d4 pawn and then win the game, as it was shown in this amazing game. Everything started from this position when the isolated pawn. Now see how Karpov improves. Brings a piece, brings another piece, brings another piece, brings another piece, brings another piece, and now prevents opponent's idea, prophylaxis. Now creates play, and now threatens everything with a move. Rook f5, rook f3 is threatened with taking the d2. Now g5 concrete move with if you accept knight into g5 is just rook into d5 free knight. It seems like you are weakening, but you are not. Then comes rook f6, and then you can defend the d2 rook normally. Bishop d1, and now comes bishop c4. Amazing move. One general advice: when your opponent has the isolated pawn, you should try to exchange the bishop in the opposite color of it. It doesn't apply every time. There are exceptions, but generally it's very good to exchange some. Like in this game, bishop c4, it was an exception. The bishop was too strong to trade for the d1 bishop. b3, bishop a6, b4, queen d8, not allowing any counterplay. One of the specialities of Karpov, he just allows no counterplay, just crushes his opponent. Queen d8, bishop b3, knight into d4. The final blow of tactics with strategy, and the picturesque finisher of the game. Rook into s3, what a move. From here, from this point, this way, he grinded it all down to this. What an amazing game by Karpov. Oh my god. So this was the amazing game. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to the subscribe button, bell icon. Thank you.